Hey everyone, it's nice to speak to you all and welcome to our webinar today, Digital Expert or Digital Laggard, Why Digital Maturity in B2B Matters. I'm Patrick Munden from Salmon, I'll be your spokesperson today, and we're going to be discussing the whole subject of e-commerce in a B2B digital environment. And today you can also follow us on Twitter, which is hashtag B2B Matters. So just use that hashtag if you'd like to also comment on the webinar. Just some housekeeping for you. We're going to be about 30 minutes today. I think our main objective is to get through our deck in about 20 minutes and our discussion, and then open it up to some questions, and we'll see how they go. We'll be discussing all the points of the presentation throughout the webinar. But please do ask questions with the chat feature, which is on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. And we'll answer as many as we can at the end in the last 10 minutes or so. When the webinar is finished, we'll also be sending you a link to download the content of this. And we'll also include a link to our white paper, which is details more information on this topic, the 5 key points to success. And there's also a couple of links throughout the webinar to some of the reports that we've done with Forrester. So I'd like to start by introducing some of the my joint speakers. So today I'm Patrick Munden. I head up marketing and communications at Salmon. We are a global e-commerce consultancy. We've worked with clients throughout the world, some of the biggest implementations across grocery, B2B, retail. So we have a lot of experience, 18 years of experience in developing e-commerce solutions and digital solutions for some of the leading brands across the world. I also have Mike Bainbridge here. He's Chief Digital Technologist from Rackspace. Rackspace is the world's largest cloud provider, which offers hosting expertise across the world's leading clouds. Mike is a digital technologist who helps customers understand their digital maturity, navigate the complex worlds of technology and tools. His background is an e-commerce architect, and he's over 10 years experience working with companies across B2B and B2C. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you.
We also have online from the United States, David Geisinger. David is the Global Product Marketing Manager at Magento. And I think a lot of you are aware of Magento. It's one of the world's fastest growing e-commerce platforms. It has a true global footprint with clients across all industries and handles over 50 billion in gross merchandise volume. So I think there's a huge amount of experience there. David was previously with eBay, where he headed up mobile and retail innovation. He's responsible for the marketing of Magento's products worldwide, so has a real understanding how the different products work for different audiences. And for our British audience here today, David is a large collector of vintage British cars and motorcycles. So good morning, David.
Good morning.
So both Rackspace and Magento are strategic partners of Salmon, and that's why we're working together on this webinar. We've developed e-commerce solutions for clients across many industries. For example, in retail, we've worked on launching Habitat. We've just launched a solution for Audi in the UK, and of course, just about to launch quite a large B2B solution for a large drinks distributor in the next few weeks. So quite a lot of experience in the room. So let's just get going. So the agenda for today is we're going to just talk a little bit about the growth of e-commerce, look at some of the 5 key traits of digital experts and discuss that, and then open to Q&A. So really, the growth of B2B e-commerce has pretty much exploded over the last few years. I mean, Forrester estimates that B2B e-commerce will top 1.1 trillion and probably about 12% of all B2B sales by 2020 in the US. And that looks like it's going to be reflected also across Europe, especially the UK. We're seeing that certainly at Salmon. We're getting more and more B2B clients contacted. There's been a rapid change in distribution channel dynamics, which have kind of very much redefined wholesale and distribution sectors. So we're finding that it's wholesale and distribution companies that are really grasping digital early, and B2B buyers have really become accustomed to being in a B2C environment. So they're buying in a B2C retail environment, and B2B buyers are saying, well, why can't I have the same sort of customer experience in my B2B, handling a B2B business? So finally, Gartner states that spending on B2B e-commerce platform will probably outpace B2C, which is retail, etc., the e-commerce market by 2. So it's a huge growth area. Are you also seeing that, David, from a Magento point of view? You're seeing big growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the points here, the B2B buyers have become accustomed to B2C online experiences is really the primary driver for what we're seeing being probably the most massive adoption in terms of market segment being B2B globally, whether that be domestically here in the United States, whether that be in Europe, Latin America, or Asia. We're absolutely seeing B2B in terms of B2C businesses looking to enable their B2B businesses, but also traditional B2B businesses become much more digitally savvy and expand their online experiences.
Okay, great. So just moving to the next slide. The reason behind this webinar is that about this time, it was around Q1 of this year, we did a bit of research in conjunction with Rackspace, and it was undertaken by Forrester. And we looked at the adoption of digital strategies across many different industries, both B2C and B2B. And we decided we'd look at the companies that, I suppose, what Forrester were classifying as digital experts. And these are companies that really grasp digital, have a very good strategy and understand how it works for them, and are doing incredibly well. And Forrester was able to identify what a group of companies which they called digital experts, and a group of companies who were kind of falling behind, which were digital laggards, but they were not exactly falling behind, they were just behind the curve. And we were able to identify clear characteristics of those digital experts. And this webinar is going to look at some of the 5 key aspects that digital experts had over digital laggards. And I think for the people listening in today, it's for you to kind of think where you sit and benchmark your own company across those 5 key points. And we've just put in a little graph to look at that. Digital experts, just to kind of give it a definition, that from a Forrester point of view, they got the right vision, processes and tools and resources to execute their digital strategy, and they had the right performance indicators to measure success. So only digital experts provided results that demonstrated a commitment to embed digital into their entire organization to deliver customer value. And we found that laggards had less of a strategy, more involved with more traditional processes, and didn't really take a customer point of view. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more in detail, and let's get into the meat of it. There's a little bit.ly link in that presentation if anyone wants to download that report immediately, but we can also contact me by email, and I can get that report over to people afterwards as well. We can do that, and it's also on the salmon.com website if you have a look. So moving straight into the 5 key points, and this is where we're going to have our discussion. It's really about the 5 points that the digital experts had, which were different to the laggards. And the first one really is a clearly defined digital strategy that was successfully executed. And when we did the research, 100% of companies that were really expert at digital had that, whereas the companies that were falling behind, there was only about 68% had a clearly defined strategy. So I'll open up the questions really to you, Mike. I mean, you work with organizations all across many different sectors. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think particularly in a B2B world, we've seen a real change this year, where at the start of the year, people were talking about having a separate digital strategy. But as the year went on, and we were discussing this with executives and business leaders, we really heard that change where, having a separate digital strategy as opposed to a traditional business strategy really wasn't the way that they were going. So more around having a digitally focused strategy and how important digital was to their business strategy. And I think it's probably worth just quickly talking about what we mean when we say digital. So it's not just technology and adopting, cloud and perhaps social media strategy and things like that, but more modern ways of working, taking an agile approach to product delivery, using automation, and also making key use of data. I think when you talk about a digitally mature business, it's someone who has really got a handle on not just the technology, but the processes you need to plug that into your business strategy.
And David, we're seeing Amazon enter the B2B sphere, and I think that's where we're getting a lot of, from a Salmon point of view, a lot of clients asking us how to compete against Salmon and the potential entrance of Salmon into B2B. What are you seeing from your point of view, especially in the States?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to expand a little bit on what Mike was saying, if you look at actually the chart, I think it's fairly straightforward that you would think that digital experts would say that they have a clearly articulated strategy, and that digital laggards would say that they don't. The point is that this is a different way of doing business for these folks. And so when you look at things like Amazon, who's entering the B2B market, and businesses out in the marketplace, and marketplace just being the market, that are looking at ways to enter B2B, some of them look at Amazon as an easy route, right? They say, oh, well, Amazon can make this easier for us. In reality, the fact is that not unlike B2C, B2B customers are still looking for that unique brand experience that you just can't deliver via a marketplace. Right? They're looking for that experience with that particular brand, that engagement that only a direct sort of B2B brand can do. And so, yes, Amazon is entering the space, but we're seeing, and we're seeing it not just here in the U.S., just for point of reference. I mean, Magento is the most widely used e-commerce platform across the globe. We're number one in the B2B 300. We're number one in the U.S., top 1,000, and Europe 500, and LATAM 500. So we're seeing clients of all sizes across the globe, whether, again, going back to Smith and earlier, whether they be B2C or B2B, really aggressively working on their digital strategy, expanding it beyond simply the strategy, but setting themselves up operationally to support these things from a B2B perspective, and looking to go direct. So yes, marketplaces is an important component to an overall strategy, but it is by no way, shape, or form the sole strategy that businesses across the globe are employing, with minor exception being Asia, just given their market. But even in Asia, they are actively and aggressively beginning to employ direct strategies beyond traditional Tmall or Alibaba marketplace environments.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I think we might get some more questions on that particular aspect later. Moving to the second key aspect, which is about, I suppose, organization and embedding a digital culture and promoting cross-functional collaboration. I think probably one of the most important things for success was that the CEO, when asked, our CEO champions our digital strategy. Again, we had 100% of digital experts stating that, whereas there was a very big difference with the laggards, where there didn't seem to be as much, I suppose, boardroom buy-in. And another aspect that we've seen at Salmon also is putting it together, ensuring that there's a cross-functional element to developing the strategy and making sure that the execution happens. So going back to you, David, how important is that collaboration, and have you seen any sectors where there's resistance to change? For example, in a B2B environment, there's a lot of emphasis on a direct sales team. Do you find that's happened in the past in companies you've dealt with?
Yeah. I mean, I do think cross collaboration is critical. Again, not really a surprise so much in the data here, and I think anyone on the phone would say that in most areas, cross collaboration is the key to success, and clearly having a leadership team that believes in the strategy and is emphasizing that strategy is critical. In terms of sectors where there's resistance to change, I don't think it's so much sectors as I think it's organization, right? So I think that going to this chart, where the digital laggards tend to come about is when the leadership team is reluctant to change. I don't think it's sector specific, however, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in healthcare, I think that there are plenty of examples, at least that we've seen, where people are both experts and laggards. I think it actually is more regional than anything, where the technology may not be available to everyone, or where some businesses may be reluctant. But I don't necessarily see it sort of sector. We don't see it sector specific.
And Mike, I mean, your company, Backspace, works across many different functions. So, from IT to marketing to the C-suite. I mean, are you finding that that's an impact? I mean, sometimes it's the IT departments that's kind of being told to get on and do digital, and does that impact things?
Yeah, and just talking to this point, working in silos, and we've seen this, and if you look at the report in more detail, really talks to that. Isn't an effective way of delivering digital outcomes, which generate better business solutions. And a specific example I just want to mention here at Rackspace is how we handle social engagement. And social media, I think, is seen as one of these sort of new ways of interacting with people. In B2C, it's obviously very important, and brands, sell products and interact with their customers via social media. In B2B, the uptake's been a little bit slower, but to give the Rackspace example, we use it for support so that our customers and businesses who are our customers can get in touch with us on the channel they want, when they want. That's really important. But it's not just a support function for us as well. We use it in marketing, like most organisations do. So there's a clear marketing message on social media, and that goes hand in hand in sales. But there's also the HR element as well, enabling the workforce to deliver I suppose a personal brand, being able to make the best use of their social networks too. So when you look at social, for example, it has that wider reach across the business. If you limit it to just one business function like marketing or support or sales, I think that's where you can really see that that cross collaboration can hinder your overall effort. So yeah, doing it across the whole business, being cross-functional, and it sounds really aspirational, but you'll find experts or people with an interest across different teams, and actually connecting them is where you can see real benefits from an employee perspective.
Great. Okay, so the third kind of key aspect and key success factor is making sure that you actually have a clearly defined appropriate funding model to support the digital strategy. Now, this is somewhere where digital experts didn't have 100% focus, but still there was a difference again between the experts and the laggards on this, which was quite interesting. Again, Mike, what elements do you think should be included up front when looking at the costing and funding models for e-commerce?
Yeah, and I think by looking at the numbers and looking at the graph, it's obvious. This is one of the things that everyone struggles with, not just the digital experts, but not just the laggards even, but the experts also struggle with it. Defining ROI models for digital projects is always difficult. And for me, the key here is not just looking at actually measurable success in terms of pound or dollar value, of course whatever currency you use, but understanding how digital projects can improve efficiency. I think taking a wide-ranging look at data to prove those outcomes. So not just looking at pure return, but looking at cost savings, looking at employee efficiency, and how things are delivered is also the key here. It's something that everyone has challenges with, and as B2B companies go through the digital maturity model, I'm sure this is a point that they'll improve on.
Great, and I'll move straight on to the fourth. I'm conscious of time, and David, I'll ask a question on this one because I think it relates to the actual product that Magento would develop for the B2B. I mean, Forrester kind of pointed out this is probably the most important aspect for success in B2B was that where you're focused on external initiatives rather than customer focus. So the question was, what we asked clients was, our digital expert efforts are focused more on external or customer-facing initiatives than employee-facing and internal projects. And we found that the experts were much more externally focused, thinking about how their digital e-commerce elements are actually going to impact the customer rather than having KPIs that are focused on, efficiency and internal best practice. So, David, in terms of the actual product that Magento do, what's the differences there that you see that are important to make it more customer focused?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole buying process is different with B2B than it is with B2C, and there are some metrics which aren't as important to B2B that may be B2C. One example is in a B2C world, it's very heavily focused around transaction volume, right? There tends to be a lot greater number of transactions, which clearly an e-commerce platform, Magento or others are capable of. Whereas a B2B platform isn't always about the volume, but it may be the size of the order. But there are also sort of critical differences in B2B that you don't have in B2C that tools like Magento are capable of supporting, whether that be natively or whether that be through the fact that we leverage an ecosystem of providers to enable extensions, things like workflow. And so there's an approval process that tends to be required in B2B that isn't necessarily required in B2C. There's invoicing. So there's it's not the credit card or PayPal type process that traditional consumers have. And probably most importantly, and the biggest difference, is the idea that not every customer is the same. Right? So in B2B, you deal with a scenario where you have different price lists based on the volume or the size of the business that the customer is. And so having the capability and the flexibility to create these different user groups to enable different pricing components to be able to be shared real time, to have workflow capabilities, to have different payment mechanisms, are some of the reasons why many of these companies, again looking at the data here, are focused on the external type of initiatives because they're not the same as the traditional B2C. So these are some of the key components that, as you look at B2B, sort of differentiate some of the e-commerce products out on the market is the ability to address sort of these specific B2B functions while also providing the flexibility, because just because you're a B2B business doesn't mean that it's a one-size-fits-all. So you really need a platform that not only has some of the core functionality, but offers you the flexibility and the openness and the scalability to adapt to your specific B2B business model.
Okay, thanks, David. Yeah, I think that's a really good points made there. And moving on to the last kind of key points for success is, obviously the ability to measure progress and success. Again, the 100% for digital experts had that, but it was amazing to see that the companies that were falling behind just didn't have the KPIs in place. And Mike, just the final point on this is, what do you think are some of the better KPIs that could be used and implemented by businesses?
Yeah, and I think KPIs are always a really interesting one. How you measure success is key. Aligning it with the previous point we talked about of putting customers first is also really important. And again, using Rackspace as an example, we use NPS or Net Promoter Score as a way to measure our engagements with customers. We ask them the ultimate customer service question. Would you recommend us to a friend or family member, and take that 0 to 10 rating? And it's those customer focus metrics that I think are really important. You can sort of realize if your company's got the wrong focus, and going back to that, whether we address customers or think more in a traditional business way by looking at these metrics. So if your metrics are around sales and hitting numbers, those traditional metrics around business growth, those are your business metrics. And while there's a place for those on the scoreboard, there has to be an alignment with actual customer-focused ones. And I think this point here, number 5, really does play into that previous one about thinking like a customer, putting yourself in the customer's shoes, and using metrics which are relevant to that customer experience.
Okay. So I'd like to summarize just the final key points, which we think are, again, that success to digital transformation and getting it right is, it's all about the customer and not the company. So if you're going to do it with the idea about getting company efficiencies, yes, you may, but I think it's more important to think about the customer. don't leave it to the digerati. Make sure that you actually bring all aspects and elements of your business together. Fund it or fail it. I think you've got to make sure there's a right funding model behind it, and you'll make sure there is a digital success metrics put in place. And we say don't be afraid to learn from the leaders in retail. Have a look at what's best practice in retail and who's doing well in this area, and implement those elements into your business. And we kind of say a mantra at Salmon is it's not about having a digital strategy, it's about digitizing your business strategy. So I'd like to thank Mike and David just for speaking today, and I hope people learned quite a lot about that. And if there's any questions, please feel free to put some into your chat box, and I see one here already, so I'll just talk about that. But before we do that, on the final slide, I'm Patrick Munden. My Twitter handle is @pmunden, and we also have the different Twitter handles of Mike and David. So if you'd like to contact them directly, please feel free to do so. The question that I've got, and David, you might be able to answer this one. It's from John, and it's how important is personalization in a B2B environment? Can you actually do it in a one-to-one environment that works really well in retail?
Right. So I think personalization occurs differently than in B2C. Again, more around the pricing and the product assortment. Right. So if you think about B2B in terms of a merchant or a manufacturer, we'll just use manufacturing, a manufacturer and a business. A business doesn't necessarily buy every item from that manufacturer and may never need to. And so personalization occurs at the catalog level and at the price list level. At the individual level, it can also occur, right? Because going back to workflow, but it's different in terms of the experience, right? B2C is much more focused around experiential selling and how is this fashion going to look on me and does it fit in my lifestyle? Whereas B2B is less about the experience per se and more about assortment, price, and workflow. So the answer is yes. I do think it can be personalized, but just again more at an assortment, pricing, and workflow perspective than an experience perspective.
And Dave, we have another question in for you directly from Mohan. He's just saying, from a Magento point of view, how do you think Magento can improve the actual B2B market? I think the question is more probably around, what kind of expertise can Magento bring that really kind of makes companies success in B2B?
Sure. Yeah, well, one, I think our platform is being the number one in B2B globally right now. I think we continue to innovate and keep our finger on the pulse of what's important in B2B. And the way we do that is that we're an enterprise software company, and we leverage the expertise of folks like Salmon and use services from folks like Rackspace with an ecosystem across the globe that delivers on our platforms. And so the reason why I think we're uniquely positioned here is because we have such a fantastic ecosystem of providers across the globe that are working in B2B every single day. And so they're the ones who are working with the merchants and manufacturers and so on every single day to understand the needs. And that knowledge and that learning is coming back through to us to help us continue to innovate our product. I think the second point is because of the fact that our product is not a closed product, it does allow you to have flexibility. It does allow you to integrate different types of extensions and connectors to enable different types of functions compared to the competitive set. It does allow for you to expand and alter your program and your solution as the market changes. Which is not something that most providers in the space can do. So I think it's a combination of continual innovation around the platform, but also the massive ecosystem that's out there delivering in B2B every day. So that combination is a really powerful equation for success for manufacturers and merchants.
Great. Well, I think that's perfect timing. We haven't any more questions. We've finished right bang smack on time, and I'd like to thank all participants for dialing in and listening. I'd also like to thank our speakers today, and please do contact us. All our contact details are there. If you need any more information from us at Salmon, Rackspace or Magento, and as I said, we'll be emailing you details of this webinar afterwards. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone.